Hello and welcome to The Essential Reads. My name is Isaac and my goal is to bring to you a bunch of classic audiobooks in an easy and accessible way. We are continuing with Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoyevsky, and this is Part 2, Chapter 3. If you're on YouTube, it is very dark in here, or much darker than usual, because it's about 35 degrees in my booth, and I don't have air conditioning because I live in France and this country doesn't do air conditioning, so I can't have my big light on. So you'll have to deal with that. Let's begin. Not that he was completely unconscious during the whole period of his illness. It was rather a state of fever, with delirium and semi-wakefulness. He remembered much of it afterwards. And now it seemed to him that a large number of people had gathered round him with the intention of seizing him and carrying him off somewhere, arguing and quarrelling fiercely over him. Now he was suddenly alone in a room. Everyone had gone away in fear of him. And only now and then would they open the door ever so slightly in order to look at him. They would threaten him, make arrangements about something between themselves, laugh at him, and tease him. He remembered Nastasya being frequently beside him. He could also discern another person whom he thought seemed very familiar. But who this was, he could not for the life of him determine, and this made him miserable, so that he even cried. Sometimes he would fancy that he had been lying there for a month. At other times, that it was still the same day. As far as that was concerned, however, that he had forgotten about altogether. Though every minute or so he would remember that he had forgotten about something it was out of the question for him to forget about. And as it came back to him, he would be racked with torment and anguish, groaning as he sank into rabid fury or fearful, unbearable terror. And then he would endeavour to get up, to flee. But someone always stopped him by force. And he would fall back, helpless, unconscious. At last, he came back to himself completely. This happened in the morning, at 10 o'clock. At that hour, on clear days, the sun sent a long band of light over the right-hand wall of his room, illuminating the corner beside the door. By his bed stood Nastasya, and another person who was examining him very curiously, and was totally unfamiliar to him. This was a young lad in a kaftan, with a beard, who was probably a money messenger by the look of him. Through the half-opened door peeped the landlady. Raskolnikov raised himself on one elbow. "Who's this, Nastasya?" he asked, pointing to the lad. "Would you look at him? Why, he's woken up," she said. "So the gentleman has," the money messenger replied. Realizing that this was so, the landlady ceased her observations through the doorway, closed the door, and disappeared from view. She was invariably shy, and found conversations and arguments irksome. She was about 40, and was plump and oily, black-eyebrowed and black-haired, with the good nature that goes along with plumpness and laziness. Actually, she was quite a comely woman, more bashful than she needed to be. "You? Who are you?" he went on, continuing his inquiry and addressing the money messenger himself. But at that moment the door again opened wide, and, stooping slightly because of his height, Razumikhin came in. "It's a regular ship's cabin," he exclaimed as he entered. "I always bang my head. They call these lodgings. You've woken up, have you, brother? I heard it just now from Pashenka." "He's only woken up just a second ago," said Nastasya. "That's right, only a second ago," the money messenger echoed with a smile. "And who might you be, sir?" Razumikhin asked, suddenly turning to him. "I'd like to make it clear to you that my name's Razumikhin, not Razumikhin, as everyone calls me, but Razumikhin, a student and a gentleman's son, and he's my only chum. Well, sir, who are you?" "I'm the money messenger in our office. I've been sent by the merchant Shalopayev, sir. I'm here on business." "Will you be so good as to sit down on this chair, please?" Razumikhin sat down on another, at the opposite side of the table. "It's just as well that you've woken up, brother," he went on, addressing Raskolnikov. You've hardly had a bite to eat or drop to drink for 4 days. Really, we've been giving you tea in spoonfuls. Twice I brought Zossimov to see you. Do you remember Zossimov? He examined you carefully and immediately said it was all a lot of nonsense. You've had some kind of stroke in your head or something. Some nervous rubbish. Poor diet, he said. Not enough beer and horseradish. That was why you got ill. But it was nothing. It would pass. Good Zossimov. You better set about tending you nobly. Well, sir, I mustn't keep you any longer, he said, turning to the money messenger again. Please be so good as to tell us what you want. I may as well let you know, Roger, that this is the second time someone's come from that office of theirs. Only last time it wasn't this fellow, but another. And he and I had a bit of a talking to. Who was that fellow who came here before you? I think that sounds as though it must have been the day before yesterday, sir. It must have been Alexei Semyonovich. He works in our office too, sir. Would you say he's a bit more intelligent than you? What's your opinion? Yes, sir. He's sort of a bit more solid, sir. Spot on. Well, sir, continue. Well, you see, sir, there's a money order coming to our office for you through Afanasy Ivanovich Vakrushin, of whom you've heard a few times before, I believe, at the request of your mother, sir. The money messenger went on, addressing Raskolnikov directly. In the event of your being in possession of your faculties, sir, I'm to entrust 35 rubles to you, sir, as Semen Semyonovich has received instructions to that effect from Afanasy Ivanovich, in the same manner as on the previous occasion, at your mother's request. Would you be knowing Afanasy Ivanovich, sir? Yes, I remember. Someone called Vakrushin. Raskolnikov said, immediately. Do you hear that? He knows the merchant Vakrushin. Razumikhin exclaimed. How could he possibly not be in possession of his faculties? As a matter of fact, I'm beginning to notice that you're an intelligent chap too. I say, sir, it's nice to do business with a man who can talk some wit. It's the same Vakrushin, sir. Afanasy Ivanovich Vakrushin. And at the same request of your mother, who has already sent some money through him in the same manner, he's agreed to do it again on this occasion, sir. And a day or two ago sent instructions from his domicile that you were to be paid 35 rubles, in expectation of better days to come, sir. Better days to come? That's your best crack yet. What about your mother wasn't bad either? Well, tell me, in your opinion, is he or is he not in full possession of his faculties? Eh? It's all right with me, sir. Only he ought to sign for it, sir. He'll scratch his name, never fear. What's the form? Do you have a book or something? Yes, sir. Here it is, sir. Give it here. Now, Roger, sit up. I'll support you. Just scribble Raskolnikov for him. Take the pen, brother. For money is sweeter than sugar to us right now. I don't want it, Raskolnikov said, pushing the pen away. What on earth are you talking about? I won't sign. The devil! Men! But you've got to. I don't want the money. So it's I don't want the money, is it? Well, brother, you're signing in the wrong tune there. I have my ears as a witness. Please don't worry. He's off on his travels again. It happens to him even when he's wide awake. You're a sensible chap, and we'll provide him with a bit of guidance. That's to say, we'll simply guide his hand and he'll sign. Well, let's get on with this. Oh, I think perhaps I'll look in some other time. No. There's no reason for you to put yourself out. You're a sensible chap. Now, Roger, don't delay our visitor any longer. He's waiting, you see. And he earnestly prepared to guide Raskolnikov's hand. Leave me. I'll do it myself, Raskolnikov said, took the pen, and signed his name in the book. The money messenger laid out the cash and beat a retreat. Bravo! Now, brother, are you hungry? Yes, Raskolnikov replied. Have you any soup? There's some left of yesterday's, Nastasya, who had been standing there all this time, replied. Rice flour and potato? That's right. I know it by heart. Bring on your soup and let us have some tea while you're about it. All right, then. Raskolnikov was looking at everything with deep amazement and a vacant, senseless terror. He decided to say nothing and wait for what might happen next. I don't appear to be delirious, he thought. This must all be real. 2 minutes later, Nastasya returned with the soup and announced that the tea would be along in a moment. To accompany the soup, 2 spoons and 2 plates put in an appearance, together with a complete dinner set. A salt cellar, a pepper pot, mustard for the beef, and so on, the like of which had not been seen for a long time. There was even a clean tablecloth. It might not be a bad idea, Nastasyushka, if Paskovia Pavlovna were to send a couple of bottles of beer. We could do with a drop of something. Quick on your toes, aren't you? Nastasya muttered and went off to fulfill his command. Raskolnikov continued to stare at everything wildly and with strained attention. In the meantime, Razumikhin moved over and sat beside him on the sofa, and with the clumsiness of a bear, placed his left arm round his head, even though Raskolnikov could quite easily have raised himself, and with his right hand brought a spoonful of soup to his mouth, first having blown on it as a precaution, so that he should not burn his tongue. The soup, however, was only barely warm. Raskolnikov greedily gulped down 1 spoonful, then another, then yet another. But then, having given him a few spoonfuls, Razumikhin suddenly stopped and announced that before letting him have any more, he would have to consult Zossimov. Nastasya came in with 2 bottles of beer. What about the tea? Do you want it? Yes. Run and get the tea, Nastasya. That's a good girl. I think we may safely indulge in tea without consulting the medical faculty. But now we have beer too. He moved back to his own chair, drew the soup and beef towards him, and began to eat with such appetite that one might have thought he had had nothing to eat for 3 days. You know, Brother Roger, I eat like this at your place every day now, he muttered as clearly as he was able to, with his mouth stuffed full of beef. That wonderful landlady of yours, Pashenka, sees to everything. She makes these feasts in my honor and really puts her heart into them. Of course, it's not at my insistence, but then I don't exactly protest either. And now here's Nastasya with the tea. Quick, wasn't she? Nastenka, would you like some beer? Oh, you and your mischief. Some tea, then? Yes, I'd quite like some. Go on then, pour it out. Wait, I'll do it. Sit down at the table. He at once took over from her, poured 1 cup, then another, abandoned his lunch, and sat down on the sofa again. As before, he put his left arm round the patient's head, lifted him up, and began to spoon tea into him with a teaspoon, again blowing on it constantly with a special zeal, as though this process of soufflation contained within it the element that was central and crucial to Raskolnikov's recovery. Raskolnikov said nothing, and offered no resistance, in spite of the fact that he felt he had quite enough strength to raise himself and sit on the sofa without anyone's help. Not only did he feel he could keep sufficient control of his hands in order to hold a spoon or cup, he could even, he felt, have walked. But the workings of some strange, almost animal cunning suddenly prompted him to conceal his strength until the right moment. To lie low, pretend to be not yet quite conscious, if need be, while all the while listening and picking up his ears to find out what was going on. He was, however, unable to master his revulsion. Having gulped down about a dozen spoonfuls of tea, he suddenly jerked his head free, pushed the teaspoon away fretfully, and collapsed again on the pillows. There were actually proper pillows under his head now, feather ones with clean slips. This, too, he observed and took into account. We must get Pashenka to send us some raspberry jam today, so we can make him drink, said Razumikhin, sitting down on his chair and once again resuming work on the soup and beer. And where is she going to get the raspberries? Nastasya asked, holding her saucer on 5 splayed fingers, and sucking her tea through the sugar, peasant fashion. She can buy them at the corner shop, my dear. You see, Roger, a whole mass of events has taken place while you've been away on your travels. When you ran away from me in that knavish way of yours, without even telling me where your lodgings were, I was suddenly seized by such a temper that I decided to track you down and punish you. I set to work that very same day, Oh, I walked and walked. Asked questions here, asked questions there. I'd forgotten about this place where you are now. Naturally, it never occurred to me, because I didn't know you were here. Well, and as for your old lodgings, all I could remember was that they were at 5 corners, in Karamov's tenements. I searched and searched for those Karamov tenements. And then, of course, it turned out that it wasn't the Karamov tenements at all, but the Buch ones. You know the way one gets the names of things mixed up? Well, and then I began to lose my temper. I lost my temper, and the next day I thought, here goes, and went to the address bureau, and would you believe it? Within 2 minutes they found you for me. You're on their books. On their books? Of course! Yet while I was there, someone was looking for a General Kobelev, and they couldn't find him to save themselves. Well, old chap, it's a rather long story. But as soon as I popped up here, I immediately got acquainted with all your doings. All of them, brother. All of them. I know about the lot. I made the acquaintance of Nikodim Fomich, had Ilya Petrovich pointed out to me. Met the yard keeper and Mr. Zamyotov. Met Alexander Grigorovich. Met the clerk at the local police bureau. And finally, met Pashenka. That crowned everything. And now she knows, too. He sugared her up. Nastasya murmured, smiling a mischievous, ironic smile. And you ought to put yours down in the cup where it belongs, Nastasya Nikiforovna. Oh, you rotten pig! Nastasya exclaimed suddenly and burst out laughing. Anyway, here, my name's Petrova, not Nikiforovna, she added suddenly when she had stopped. I shall take it to heart, madam. Well now, brother, to cut a long story short, at first I wanted to wire up the whole place with electric current, in order to get rid of the prejudices there are around here in one go. But Pashenka won the day. You know, brother, I had no idea she was such a dish, eh? What do you think? Raskolnikov said nothing, though never for one moment had he taken his troubled gaze off his friend, and was now continuing to stare intently at him. And you might even say, Razumikhin went on, not in the slightest put out by the silence, and as if in confirmation of some reply he had received, you might even say that she's got all that it takes, and in all the right places, too. Dirty beast! Nastasya screamed again, plainly finding this conversation a source of the most unutterable delight. You see, brother, what you did wrong was to not get stuck in there right at the beginning. She needed to be handled in a different sort of way. I mean, she really is a most surprising character. Well, more about her character later. Only how could you have let things get to such a pass that she didn't even dare to send your dinner up to you? And then that promissory note. Had you taken leave of your senses to go signing a thing like that? And what about this business of you promising to marry her daughter, when Natalia Yegorovna was still alive, that is? I know everything. However, I can see that I have touched a delicate chord, and that I am an ass. You must forgive me. But while we're on the subject of stupidity, what do you think? I mean, Prashkovya Pavlovna is not at all as stupid as one might suppose at first glance, is she, eh? No, Raskolnikov said through his teeth, looking to one side, but realizing that it would be more to his advantage to pursue the conversation. Don't you think so? Razumikhin exclaimed, evidently delighted to have received a reply. But then she's not exactly clever, either, is she, eh? A truly surprising character. You know, brother, sometimes I'm at my wit's end. To tell you the truth, she must be all of 40. She says she's 36, and she has every right to do so. Actually, to be quite honest, I approach her more on an intellectual level, a purely metaphysical one. We've got a sort of secret code between us that's worse than algebra. I don't understand any of it. Oh, but that's all a lot of nonsense. The thing is that when she saw you'd stopped being a student, that you'd lost your private teaching and your decent suit of clothes, and that after her daughter's death there was no reason for her to treat you as one of her family anymore, she suddenly got frightened. And since you were hiding yourself in your room and had dropped your previous friendly relations with her, she decided to kick you out. She's been cherishing that plan for a long time, but was loath to say goodbye to the promissory note. What was more, you'd been telling that your mother would pay it. I was a bastard to say that. My mother's practically begging on the streets. I lied to her so she'd let me stay in my lodgings and provide me with meals," Raskolnikov said, loudly and distinctly. "Yes, and that was a wise thing to do. The only trouble was that who should turn up just then but Mr. Chebarov, court counsellor and a man of legal business. If he hadn't been there, Pashenka would have never thought of any of it. She's far too shy. Well, men of business aren't shy, and of course the first thing he asked her was, question, was there any hope of payment on the promissory note? Answer, yes, because there was a mother who actually sent her Rodenka money out of her 125 ruble pension, even though it meant she would have to go without food, and a sister who would sell herself into bondage for her brother's sake. It was on that he based his course of action. What are you moving about like that for? I know all your precious secrets now. It wasn't in vain that you indulged in those confidences with Pashenka when you were still part of her family. And here I speak as a friend. But that's how it is. A man of honesty and sensitivity indulges in confidences, while a man of business listens, but goes on licking up the cream. So the next thing she did was to give the said promissory note to the said Chebarov in lieu of payment. And he had no qualms about formally demanding the amortization of the debt. When I found out about all this, I felt like giving him a dose of electric current too, to clean out his conscience. But at that same time, Pashenka and I were getting along swimmingly, and I told her to stop the whole thing, right at the source, as it were, vouching to see to it that you paid up. I vouched for you, brother. Do you hear that? We summoned Chebarov, stuck 10 rubles under his nose, and got the document back. I now have the honor of presenting it to you. They'll believe what you tell them now. Here, take it. I've even torn it slightly, in the way one is supposed to. Razumikhin spread the acknowledgement of debt out on the table. Raskolnikov glanced at it, and without saying a word, turned his face to the wall. Razumikhin fairly winced. I can see, brother, he said after a while, that I've made a fool of myself again. I thought I'd cheer you up and take your mind off things with a bit of chatter. But I think I've merely annoyed you. Were you the person I didn't recognize when I was delirious? Raskolnikov asked, having also remained silent for a while and without turning his head round. That's right. And a fair old frenzy you got into about it, too. Especially when I brought Zamyotov with me one day. Zamyotov? The police clerk? Why? Raskolnikov quickly turned round and stared at Razumikhin. What the devil? Why are you upset? He wanted to make your acquaintance. It was his own idea, because he and I had been talking so much about you. How would I know so much about you unless I'd been talking to him? He's a splendid fellow, brother. Most wonderful chap, in his own way, naturally. We're buddies now. We see each other practically every day. I mean, I've even moved into his bit of town now. Didn't you know? I've only just moved. He and I have been to Leviza's place a couple of times. Do you remember Leviza? Leviza Ivanovna? Did I rave a lot? You bet. You weren't your own man. What did I rave about? Heavens, man, what did you rave about? People rave about all sorts of things. Well, brother, we mustn't waste time. There's business to see to. He rose from his chair and grabbed hold of his cap. What did I rave about? Oh, how you keep on. Is it some secret you're afraid of giving away? Don't worry, you said nothing about countesses. But you said a great deal about a bulldog, some earrings and chains or other, Kreskovsky Island, some yard-keeper fellow, and Nikodim Fomich, and Ilya Petrovich, his assistant. Oh yes, and you were particularly interested in one of your own socks. You kept moaning, give it to me, over and over again. Zamyotov himself went looking around for your socks, and with his very own hands, bathed in scent, and besigned with rings, put the whole rubbishy lot into your grasp. Only then did you calm down, and you held on to that rubbish for days on end. It was impossible to get it away from you. It must be somewhere under your quilt even now. And then you asked for the ends of your trousers. My, how tearful you were about it. We tried to find out what sort of ends they were, but we couldn't make it out. It was a mystery. But now I really must be off. Look, here are your 35 rubles. I'll take 10 of them, and in a couple hours' time, I'll be back here and show you what use I've made of them. At the same time, I'll let Zossimov know how you are. Though he really ought to have been here long ago. It's getting on for 12 o'clock. And Nastenka, while I'm gone, please look in often and find out if he wants anything to drink or whatever. As for Pashenka, I'll tell her what she needs to know right now. Goodbye. Calling her Pashenka like that. Listen to old crafty lips. Nastasya said as she went out. Then she opened the door and began to eavesdrop, but lost patience and ran downstairs. She was extremely interested to know what Razumikhin was talking about down there with the landlady. Indeed, it was in general obvious that she was quite taken with him. No sooner had the door closed behind her than the patient threw off his quilt and leapt up from the bed like a man half crazy. With burning, convulsive impatience, he waited for them to go so he could begin his task. But what was it? What was the task? Now, as though by design, it seemed to have gone clean out of his head. Oh, Lord, just tell me one thing. Do they know about it all? Or haven't they found out yet? Or is it that they've simply been pretending, playing cat and mouse with me while I was still laid up in bed, and will suddenly come in and tell me that they've long known everything, and have merely been... Then what am I to do now? I've gone and forgotten. That would have to happen. One moment it was in my head, and the next it went out of it. He stood in the center of his room and looked round him in agonized bewilderment. He went over to the door, opened it, and listened. But that was not it. Suddenly, as though it had come back to him, he rushed to the corner where the hole in the wallpaper was, began to examine everything, put his hand through the hole, felt about. But that was not it either. He went to the stove, opened it, and began to feel around in the ashes. The fragments of his trouser ends and the shreds of his torn-out pocket lining were scattered about where he had thrown them earlier. That meant no one had seen them. At that point, he remembered the sock that Razumikhin had told him about just then. True enough, there it was, lying on the sofa, under the quilt. But it was now so dirty and unnoticeable that Zamyotov could not have possibly spotted it. That's it. Zamyotov. The bureau. But why do they want me at the bureau? Where's that summons? Wait a minute. I'm getting mixed up. That was back then. And back then I examined my sock too. But now I've been ill. But why did Zamyotov come to see me? Why did Razumikhin bring him here? He muttered helplessly, sitting down on the sofa again. And what is all this? Is it still my delirium playing up, or is it real? It seems to be real. Yes, I remember. I must flee. I must take to my heels right now. I have absolutely no choice. But where am I to run to? And where are my clothes? My boots aren't here. They've cleared them away. Hidden them. It's all too clear. But here's my coat. They must have missed it. And here's my money on the table. Thank God. Here's the note, too. I'll take the money and leave. I'll rent new lodgings. They'll never find me. Yes, but what about the address bureau? They'll find me. Razumikhin will. I'd better flee entirely. Go far away. To America. And let them go to hang. I'll take the note, too. It'll come in handy over there. What else should I take? They think I'm ill. They don't even know I can walk. All I need to do is get down to the bottom of those stairs. But what if they put people on watch down there? Policemen. What's this? Tea? Ah, there's some beer left, too. Have a bottle full. And it's cold. He seized hold of the bottle, in which there was enough beer left to fill a whole tumbler, and drank it down with pleasure in one draught, as though he were extinguishing a fire within himself. But hardly had a moment gone by than the beer went to his head, and along his spine past a gentle and even welcome shiver. He lay down and pulled the quilt over him. His thoughts, which were already morbid and incoherent as it was, began increasingly to merge with one another. And before long, slumber, light and welcome, held him in his grasp. With pleasure, he sought a place for his head on the pillow, wrapped himself more tightly in the soft quilt which now lay on top of him in place of the tattered overcoat he had been using before, uttered a quiet sigh, and fell into a deep, sound, restorative sleep. What woke him up was the sound of someone coming up to his room. Opening his eyes, he saw Razumikhin, who opened the door wide and was standing in the threshold, wondering whether to go in or not. Raskolnikov quickly sat up on the sofa and looked at him, as though making an effort to remember something. "Ah, you're awake. But here I am. Nastasya, bring the bundle up here." Razumikhin shouted down the staircase. "In a second or two, I'll show you how I spent the money." "What time is it?" asked Raskolnikov, looking round him uneasily. "Why, you slept a grand style, brother. It's evening outside. It must be 6 o'clock. You've been asleep for about 6 hours and a bit." "Good Lord, what's wrong with me?" "What's wrong with you? It'll have done you good. Where's the hurry? Off to a rendezvous or something?" "Now all our time's our own. I've already been waiting for you for about 3 hours. I looked in a couple of times, but you were asleep. I went to call on Zossimov twice. Nothing done. He wasn't in. But don't worry, he'll be along. I also took a bit of time off to see to my own poultry affairs. You see, I moved today. Moved completely, together with my uncle. I've got an uncle living with me now, you see? But the hell with that. To our task. Give me the bundle over here, Nastenka. Now we'll just... how are you feeling, brother?" "I'm all right. I'm not ill." "Razumikhin, have you been here long?" "I told you, I've been waiting 3 hours." "No, but before that." "What do you mean, before?" "How long is it since you began these visits to the house?" "But, I mean, I told you all of that this morning. Or have you forgotten?" Raskolnikov began to reflect. The events of that morning flitted before him as in a dream. He was unable to recall them single-handed, and looked questioningly at Razumikhin. Razumikhin said. "You have forgotten. Why, even just this morning I thought you weren't yet in your... Yet your sleep has made you recover. You really do look a lot better. Good for you, lad. But now to business. You'll remember it all in a jiffy. Look what I have here, my dear fellow." He began to undo the bundle, on which he had obviously lavished a good deal of care. "Believe me, brother, this is something that lies particularly close to my heart. For we must make a proper human being of you. Let's get on with it. We'll start at the top. Do you see this little casket?" He began producing from the bundle a fairly decent, but at the same time very ordinary and cheap quality peaked cap. "Would you like to try it on?" "Later. Afterwards," Raskolnikov said, brushing it aside peevishly. "No, brother Roger, don't be quarrelsome. Afterwards it'll be too late. And besides, I shan't be able to get a wink of sleep all night, because I don't know your size. I bought it on a guess." "Perfect!" he exclaimed triumphantly, having tried it on Raskolnikov's head. "It fits perfectly. What a man wears on his head, brother, is the most important item of his costume, as a kind of introduction, in a way. Every time my friend Tolstyakov goes into one of those public places, he sees that all the other gents standing there are wearing caps and hats, and he finds himself compelled to remove his own humble lid. Everyone thinks he does it because he has servile feelings, but it's really because he's ashamed of that bird's nest of his. He's a man with a sense of shame. Well now, Mr. Senka, here are 2 items of headdress for you. This grand old Palmerston." He produced from the corner Raskolnikov's mangled round hat, which for some reason he had given the name Palmerston. "Or this intricate little knick-knack. What's your guess, Roger? How much do you think I paid for it? How about you, Nastasyushka?" he said, turning to her, observing that Raskolnikov was not going to say anything. "I should think it cost you 20 kopecks, Nastasya replied. 20 kopecks, you brainless girl!" he exclaimed, taking offense. Why, one couldn't even buy you for 20 kopecks these days. It cost 80, and that's only because it had been worn. But then it carries a guarantee. If you wear it out this year, they'll give you another next year for nothing, so they will. Now, let us proceed to the United American States, as they used to be called in the gymnasium I attended. I must warn you that I'm rather proud of the breeches. And in front of Raskolnikov, he stretched out a pair of grey trousers, made of a light summer woolen material. They bear not a hole nor stain, and they're not bad at all, even though they are a bit worn. And there's a waistcoat to go with them, the same colour as the fashion requires. Actually, the fact that the stuff's been worn is a positive advantage. It's softer, more comfortable. You see, Roger, it's my opinion that in order for a man to make his way in the world, it's sufficient for him to always observe the seasons. If one doesn't demand asparagus in January, one may keep a few rubles in one's purse. And the same thing applies to the purchase before you now. At present, it is summer, so I've made a summer purchase. Because for autumn, you'll need things made of warmer material, and you have to throw these one's way. All the more so, because by that time, this stuff will have fallen to bits. If not because of its increased splendor, then because of certain inner defects. Well, give me your guess. How much do you suppose? 2 rubles and 25 kopecks. And remember, again, there is the same guarantee. If you wear these out this year, you may take some others next year for nothing. Those are the only terms of trade at Fedyeyev's shop. You pay your money once, and you get goods to last all your life, because otherwise you'd never go to the place again. Well now, let's proceed to the boots. What do you think? I mean, it's easy to see they've been worn, yet they'll answer perfectly for a month or two, as they're foreign craftsmanship and foreign manufacture. The secretary of the British embassy sold them at the flea market last week. He'd only been wearing them for 6 days, but he needed the money badly. The price was 1 ruble 50 kopecks. All right. But they may not fit, Nastasya observed. Not fit? Pff, what do you think this is? And from his pocket, he hauled one of Raskolnikov's old stiffened boots, caked over with dried mud and full of holes. I took this monster along in the reserve, and by measuring it, they were able to determine his size. The whole business was conducted in a most cordial fashion. As for his linen, I've had a word with the landlady. Here, to start with, here are 3 shirts, coarse cloth ones, but fashionably styled on the outside. Well, so 80 kopecks for the cap, 2 rubles 25 for the rest of the clothes. That makes 3 rubles and 5 kopecks. 1 ruble 50 for the boots, because they're very nice ones. That comes to 4.55 and 5 rubles inclusive for the linen. They were both wholesale, so the whole lot comes to 9 rubles and 55 kopecks exactly. There's 45 kopecks change in copper 5s. Here, please take them. And so, Roger, now your wardrobe is completely renewed. As in my opinion, your coat is not merely still serviceable, but actually possesses an air of certain nobility. That's what one gets when one orders one's clothes from Sharmer's. As for socks and the rest, I'll leave that up to you. We've got 25 rubles left, and you don't need to worry about Pashenka and paying the rent. I told you, I've got the most unlimited credit with her. And now, brother, you must please let me change your linen for you, or else your germs will probably go on lingering in your shirt. Stop it! I don't want all this! Raskolnikov protested, warding him off, having listened with revulsion to Razumikhin's strained efforts at humour in his account of how he had bought the clothes. It's no good making a fuss, brother. I haven't worn my boot leather out for nothing, Razumikhin insisted. Nastasyushka, don't be so embarrassed. Come and help me. That's right. And in spite of Raskolnikov's protests, he nonetheless managed to change his linen. Raskolnikov fell back on the pillows, and for a couple of minutes did not say a word. They're not going to leave me alone for a long time yet, he thought. Out of whose money did you buy all this? He asked at last, looking at the wall. Whose money? What questions do you ask? Why, yours, of course. That money messenger was here this morning from Vokruzin's. Your mother sent it. Have you forgotten? I remember now, said Raskolnikov after a long, morose bout of reflection. Frowning, Razumikhin kept glancing at him uneasily. The door opened, and there entered a tall, thick-set man, whom Raskolnikov thought also looked somewhat familiar. Zossimov at last! Razumikhin exclaimed in relief. Thank you so very much for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, share, all that jazz. And if you really enjoyed, do subscribe because there is more to come. This is a very long book. If you're listening on podcast, please leave a review as it helps get this in front of as many people as possible, and reading your reviews really makes my day. Please share it around. Please listen to it longer on Spotify, even if it's just while you're sleeping. Help me reach those monetization requirements that I need on there, so I can finally get paid on the podcast platforms as well. If you want to support the show further, you can click on here to the screen where there's a Ko-Fi link, or you can find that in the description box as well. It's a direct way to support the show in improving this space and providing a better listening experience for you guys. Once again, thank you very, very much for listening. And until next time, bye-bye.